And I think we are live. Hello, everybody. Yeah, 2 thumbs up. Thank you for being here. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday afternoon, evening. Maybe it's Monday where you are. Thank you for being here.
Right. Yeah. To the viewers.
Yeah, sometimes I forget where I am too. I'm like, what day is it? What time zone? And thank you. I'm Kevin, the healing medium, and I have a wonderful guest, which I'm sure a lot of you already know. This is Hogarth. And are you going by different names yet or no? Are you sticking to that one? Because I remember you mentioned something about like, oh, I might, and not to put you on the spot, but I guess I just did.
Well, I mean, like some people do struggle to say my name, Hogarth. So I know Linda G definitely does. She's like Hogwarts, Hog, blah blah blah. So like, if anyone struggles, then they can just call me Hoagie. But you like the sandwich, Hoagie like the sandwich. And I was mentioning to Kevin just backstage, at some point you may hear my buzzer go, and if the buzzer goes, it's my shopping that I've ordered online in the morning. And you're a bit blary-eyed and everything like that, but the delivery slot was 7:15 p.m. to 8:15 p.m., which is kind of like right now. It's currently 3 minutes past 8, so the door buzzer may go and I'll have to dash, grab my shopping and come back. So apologies in advance.
It's perfect. And yeah, no worries. Those things, life happens, and that's just it. So the show must go on. I will ask that if you would hold we will be getting to some questions in the second part of the show, but I'll just ask that if you hold your questions till then, for a couple of reasons. One is I still am learning. And in that, I like to focus on my guest and have that be in the conversation that will, our intention is to provide you with something. So in that, if we can hold the questions till later, and then when we are close to doing the questions, I will announce it and we will go from there. But thank you for being here, Hogarth. I think it's the TH. That maybe some people struggle with.
Exactly. I think, yeah, you're right. It's the TH. Oh, I can see there's quite a few people in the chat.
There's a lot of people. There was lots of messages saying how excited people were for you to be on the show. So it was, I mean, that's so reassuring. And just before I focus on Hogarth a little bit more, I just wanted to thank everybody. I think my last show I had announced that I was close to 4,000, and I've got over 4,000 subscribers, which I am just so grateful for. In a 2 short months, just over 2 short months,
I'm actually. There you are. Well done.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah. And sticking to my word, I did mention that I am going to have a contest. I am. So to celebrate the 4,000, and here's the thing, I'm approaching almost 5,000. So we're going to have 2 separate contests. The first one will be for the 4,000. You can, if you are interested in a free reading and a prize package, and I'm not going to spoil what that prize package is. I'm going to send it to you, but there will be a reading and a prize package. If you're interested in that, it will be through a Aiden. Aiden has that wheel figured out where he does all of the input of that and then does the live winner. We will be doing that. So how it works is you have to email me at, I'm actually just going to post that up there really quick. No, not this one. We're going to go with the Healing Medium contest at gmail.com. And then you'll be entered into the contest, and it will go all the way from now until the end of August. So Wednesday, August 31st at midnight, or I guess 11:59, but midnight. And then September 1st will be the announce. We will do a live and announce the winner of that. So there you have that. And one other little housekeeping thing, the workshop that Jason and I are hosting on next Thursday. Jason was a guest a few days ago, and he is a expert in past life and regression and reincarnation, and it just goes on, his expertise. And so in that, the free workshop, and I will be really transparent, we have room for 98 people, and we're about 3/4 booked for that already. It's
wow.
Yeah, so the details of that are in, I believe I've put them in the description box below. If I haven't, then I will, I think I did, but if I didn't, I will post that in the description box. Again, you have to email. It's all these different emails. But if you're interested in the free workshop, it is, if you send an email to the Healing Medium Workshop at gmail.com, and then we will send you the Zoom link. It will be through Zoom, about 2 hours. We will send you a really detailed setup of what to expect and how to prepare and all of that. But it's going to be amazing, you guys. So I'm looking forward to that. So once again, I'll put it in the description after this show if I have forgotten to. So Hogarth, thank you for being here. It was wonderful. If you have not, or you may have seen, I was on Hogarth's show. Hogarth's Global Astrology is his, I think I said that right.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah.
Is his YouTube channel. And he was so gracious in bringing me on his show. And we had a chit chat before. And from that was this, come on to my show. I'm going to do a live unveiling of this reading around what he does. And
you're very brave, very brave. Live chart reading, but you went for it. And I think it was a good show, wasn't it? It's very interesting. It was very interesting reading your chart. Yeah.
It was so validating on so many levels, and it spoke to me in ways. And I know that I've shared this, and this is a few weeks after, and I'm finding areas where it's like, not only is the validation continuing, but I'm looking where it, because I've watched it several times, where for me, areas in my life that it can assist me. And so I love that. So I'm going to hand it over to Hogarth. Please introduce yourself. Tell us about you, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. So I really appreciate that, and congratulations as well at hitting 4,000 and going beyond. And what a fantastic time to be on YouTube at this time in global history. Really, there is a lot of interesting stuff. We know there's a lot of shadow, there's a lot of peril on Earth, but also as well, it seems that we're going through a real kind of spiritual awakening, doesn't it? There's more and more people getting in touch with these things, often because they've been pushed to do so. In terms of people rarely ask about me, and believe it or not, I don't actually talk about myself that much. But what I will say is that I have been interested in astrology for a very long time. So, I mean, my true interest in exploration began when I was about 8 years old. So that's a while now. And then just with time, I really started to, and I got into all the ologies, the numerologies, the Chinese, I learned the Chinese star sign system, where they have the animals for the years, etc., and the time and the hour. All of that stuff, all those esoteric subjects, psychology, mythology, fairy tales, everything. I was always interested in that stuff since I was a kid. And the audience, or my audience, or your audience may not know, but my mother suffered from schizophrenia. She suffered very severely from schizophrenia for many years. And you can actually see that in my chart. I've got the moon in the 12th house. Yeah, and the 12th house it's kind of like an otherworldly house. It's a bit of an otherworldly house, but it can deal with endings and beginnings, losses. So if the moon is in the 12th house, it can mean loss of the mother or separation from the mother, stuff like that. And that was there were many advantages as well, but that was the case for me. But that really got my interest piqued when it came to astrology and stuff like that. And when I realized the psychological aspects of it, and it actually helped me understand my mother's condition, and then it just really grew. And it's very much a case of as above so below, and particularly when it came to Vedic astrology, then then it was just became so accurate. And so now I can literally, you know, look at people's charts, and it's also a gift that I've developed, and I do have a lot of psychic stuff going on as well. So it's not just pure technical astrology, the psychic stuff as well, which is getting stronger.
And I will say, like, that was my experience in in the reading that I had with you. It was more than just the astrology, and not to downplay that. There were more layers to it. You know, the psychic faculties and the tarot and all of the components that you bring to it just really was very different. And you mentioned the Vedic, and can you share with the kind of the differences between the Vedic and the Western styles of astrology, just so that the audience knows?
Excellent question, because many people will be wondering, because a lot of people would be just like, well, astrology is just astrology. No, it isn't. So in terms of like the disciplines, first of all, Western astrology still does work. However, it is looking at a very different part of the sky, and it's pinned to the seasons, the equinoxes. So Western astrology has got a lot to do with the movements of the sun, essentially the seasons. And the best analogy for it is, in many ways, is like this, is that basically the stars, they're called the fixed stars. We assume that the stars don't move, but they do. Every single thing, as we know, is energy. Everything is in flux. So if you can see here, I want to use the analogy. If you see my projector on the background, you see it's like a nebula. It's a galaxy, but it's moving.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you. But that is exactly what it's like with the stars, and it's called precession of the equinoxes. Procession is forward. Precession is backwards. So from our vantage point here on Earth, the stars, like we're part of this. So imagine this is the Milky Way, or our galaxy. The stars, they're all moving backwards, and they move backwards about 1 degree every 70 to 71, 72 years. They don't wait until the 71st year. They're just slowly moving back. In the West, we're still pitched to a part of the sky that was relevant, which was basically selected in around about the fall of Rome. The fall of Rome. The fall of Rome was approximately 540 AD. Give it all, loose change. It took actually a long time for Rome to fall. And at that time, there was this almost more of a blending, a unification between ancient Babylonian astrology, which is also sidereal, Indian astrology, and what we would call tropical Western astrology. But the thing is, the stars have moved since then. It is now, as we all know, 2022. So you can imagine that slow progression has been going on for a long time. So what's happened is we divide the sky up into 12 equal sections, or in Vedic astrology, equal houses. That gives you the signs of the zodiac. There's 12 signs, and they're 30 degrees each. So 12 times 30 equals 360. That gives you the sky. So what it means is the stars have moved backwards by almost 24 degrees out of 30. So if everyone knows their sun sign, which we all know in the West, you actually have to take almost 24 degrees off of it backwards to find the true placement in terms of where the starlight, what was actually happening, the Shakti that you were bathed in at the time that you were born. When you take your first breath, that is your birth. And it's almost like breathing in that Shakti, that starlight, and it affects your aura, everything. It becomes part of your, and that's why my channel is called the Archetypal Blueprint, becomes part of your blueprint. Western astrology still works because the distance between the planets are still the same in the sky, but they will almost always be talking about a different sign. So that's why, for example, when I read your chart, you were like, OMG. And it was like,
well, that was it. It was, I mean, and it was so significant because between the two types of readings, there was significant difference in some of the aspects. Two in particular that took me from Capricorn to Sagittarius, and it was like I just didn't resonate before. So with the, in the Vedic, there was such a resonance and the familiarity with that aspect of my chart that I just didn't resonate with before. So it was huge. It was huge, and so I know that that's there for other people.
And this is what's this is because as you know, I've been running for my channel for a couple of years now, but along with my YouTube, of course, I still do consultations, and I've lots, like I've said before, but I'm coming up to close to about 700 now in the last couple of years.
Wow!
And in fact, it's actually less than 2 years because it was Diane's Tarot that initially discovered my channel, and then things grew from there. So I'm forever grateful for that. But that was sort of like in end of October, pretty much end of October 2020. So I started my channel in March. So and then things really sped up from there. So it's been a lot. So I've had a lot of chance, of course, to study the theory of astrology, because obviously I did start young. I did start when I was 8, so I've been going for a long time. But just seeing a consultation after consultation after consultation after consultation, the same or similar patterns. So I say to my clients now, very much for me, when I'm reading a chart, it's like reading a piece of music. That's what it's like. I'm reading the music of the chart, and I'm also reading the starlight of the chart, the energy of the chart. And I'm tuning in with my client, and then psychically sort of like tuning in with the planets upstairs, and they will drop stuff in, all that kind of stuff. So that also contributes as well to the accuracy. I've literally just had a client today. I won't say her name because I think she wants to remain private, but she sent me a little private YouTube video because she came for a free chart reading. She's part of my Chalice Light membership, so they get some free readings. And she was busy, and she wasn't having enough time alone to be able to do a consultation. Say, like if we were in a consultation situation like this. So I just read it to camera, and I just read her chart. I just said what I saw. She's just sent me a video to be like, oh my God, that was so accurate. And she's literally gone through, I'm halfway through the video because obviously I needed to come here, and she's gone through point by point of things that I've seen in her chart that I identified, and she was like, yes, that you were right about my brother, you were right about my family members and all that kind of stuff. So there you are. Western
amazing
works, but the Vedic, once you know the chart there, it's like wow.
There's some distinct differences, and I just want to acknowledge you've had, huge success on your channel. I think did you just reach over 12,000? I think
I did. Thank you.
Congratulations! And over 1 million views. So congratulations for that. Now you mentioned about being 8 years old, and there was that interest in the astrology. Does this go together with the with your awakened abilities, your gifts, however you language those? But I'm wondering if there's a connection with that, like within the interest of the astrology, was there an awareness of your gifts?
Oh, what a great question! Honestly, it's a great question. I'm so used to asking people questions, interviewing them. It's just a very different turn of events. I mean, I realize now, looking back, especially, and also as well, talking with my sister, who actually came to me for a consultation the other day, and she's got an extraordinary chart, by the way. We did a Zoom, but I said, right, Minnie, when we next meet, we really need to talk about certain things, and I think we need to take an adventure to Egypt and stuff like that. But I realize now there were many mystical and spiritual experiences that I had in childhood, particularly with what was going on with my mother, because she really actually did dabble a lot in spirituality and stuff. And I can't really go publicly into all of that, but I was very much aware that reality as we understand it now is only one component of that. there are many different layers of reality. And in many ways, the invisible world is actually more real than the visible world. Because in Vedic astrology, they use this concept, which is called Maya, which we may have heard before. And it basically means the illusion, the great illusion. So when we come here on, and we're here on Earth School, there is an illusion to the world, which is that we believe that everything is real. Yeah. But as we know, when we touch things, everything is vibration. This is just vibrating a bit slower than maybe like my table, etc. All of that stuff. Everything is all neurons, atoms, and all of this kind of stuff. So in the ancient astrology, what they tried to get us to understand is that we should not take the illusion too seriously. However, it is very difficult. Why? Because the Sanskrit name for the planets is graha, and graha means to grip. And it's very difficult to loosen oneself free from the grip of the planets, because they're all affecting our subconscious and our ethereal body, as it were. You know, you've got the auras, you've got the different layers of auras, so the planets affect that. This is why whenever I get an accurate birth time for someone, I can tell what is going on in their life, in their past, present, and their future, because the planets will be given that subtle effect, but it's a very powerful effect. So the question would be is, what's the point then? Are all our lives fated? Is everything just there? It's like a railroad. We're just puppets on this stage. And believe it or not, you know what? There is some truth to that. There is people's lives are far more fated than they realize. However, there is the possibility of freedom, which of course is enlightenment. This is what you hear in all religions talk about: enlightenment. Truth, setting one free. So it's about how much a person is prepared to work on and develop spiritual tools and truths. When I'm working with a client and I'm looking at their chart, I take it's a big responsibility, because in many ways what I'm doing is liberating that, emancipating that person from the more subconscious elements of their life, if you know what I mean. Like when I was talking about how you could see your grandmother assisting you and this, and that's what it does. It helps lift the veil. That's really.
And you nailed it. It's the assistance and the connection with that knowing and the recognition. It can assist us in our lives, with our day to day and all aspects of it. So I love that. And it sounds like in your sharing and in the reflection, from being a child and that curiosity around the astrology and that unfoldment with your aspects of your relationship with mom and all of that, there's assistance that's available in that knowledge. So it's so powerful. I have Hogarth's information in the description to reach him to, I just highly recommend for those that feel called to doing a consultation, to having, and it's just so much in it. And I think because of all that he brings to it, aside from the astrology, all the extra layers is just something that's really special. So if you feel called to that, reach out. Can you share an experience that profoundly deepened your level of trust with spirit?
These are juicy questions. These are juicy questions, and oh my God!
Yeah. He's like, ding dong, food's here.
Well, I'm hoping the doorbell will ring. Well, no, the thing. There have been many things. There have been many things. So many of those who follow my channel as well, they also know that I get dreams. I get dreams where I commune with the planets, or they commune with me and tell me stuff that's coming up and all that stuff. My most recent dream, which has just turned out to be kind of epically true, was my recent one with Duck L'Orange, Donald Trump, where I saw his house completely collapsing, and I realized the two women that I saw, one was the Cassidy Hutchinson and the other one was Sarah Matthews. I think even Ivana may have even been in there, but I think I dismissed it at the time. I don't remember putting it in my notes, so I'm not going to say that that was a bona fide thing, because I'm supposed to kind of put all those details down. And sometimes I do dismiss stuff in my dreams because it just seems frivolous. Yeah. And then events transpire. So in terms of like childhood events, oh God, should I share this one? All right. You know what? I'm going to share it. What the hell? I'm going to share it. Because this is also one with my sister. Yeah, this is one that me and my sister, actually, it was a shared experience together. And we were remembering about it. We were talking about supernatural experiences and stuff. And my brothers and sisters have had lots. And we both were talking about the same story. Anyway, so my mum, I remember I was playing on the stairs, sunny day, starlight coming in. We used to live in this old Victorian house in North Hackney. And I was playing on the stairs and my sister was there. And then my mum shouted to us. She was like, quick, kids, get into the room. Yeah. Come into the bedroom. Now, bear in mind, one starts to take these things with a pinch of salt, because if you've got a parent who's got mental health issues, it's always drama. Yeah. But this felt different. Now, my mother, which now my brother, actually, a slight sidetrack here, but my brother's got a book contract at the moment. He's actually going to be launching a book in October, and it's all about his life, but our childhood growing up. It was very extreme, very unusual. But one of the things is my mother was very much a force of nature. And what really got me that day was that she sounded scared. Yeah. Now, if you can imagine, my mum was one of those people that it was very obvious that she had mental health issues. Yeah, like it was very obvious. But she was also incredibly brilliant, brave, and bombastic. And she sounded frightened. So we went into the bedroom and my sister was there, and she quickly slammed the door shut. And then I heard this kind of creaking on the stairs, like something very, very heavy. And then the doorknob started to shake. Yeah. And you could hear this kind of yeah, on the other side. I don't know what but the vibe was just like, oh my God. And I remember my mum was shaking. Wow. She was shaking. Can you imagine? Like, for a kid, we always, even if our parents aren't 100% right, they're still our parents. Mm-hmm. That's why sun and moon is king and queen. Yeah, our parents are always king and queen in some way until we know better. Yeah. So to see your parent frightened really scares you as a kid, particularly as well when they're used to being so fierce. Anyway, she had this bracelet of whatevers. And one of the things, whenever we ate chicken, whenever we roasted a chicken, and weirdly enough, actually, I'm going to be roasting a chicken today when my delivery eventually arrives. My mother would always get us to keep the wishbones. Yeah. And she'll keep these wishbones. Anyway, she was trying all these different things. She had these different charms. And then I think she said to me, she said, hold the other side of the wishbone. And she broke it. And then whatever was on the other side of that door vanished. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at that point, as a kid, I was like, wow, there is a lot more going on to the world than I realized before. And I could say, really, that was that point where I really started to get into the astrology, but also psychology to try and understand my mother better, the Greek mythology. And then I realized, oh, my God, it's all real. It's all real. So there you are.
I love that share. I love it for so many reasons. And one of them is the power that we have to be responsible and the choice we have around what we're creating. So in that snap of it, it was like, no, I'm not going to, this is it. I get to be in control of what that looks like. So I think that's powerful to me, that we always have the ability to shut things down if they don't feel comfortable, for example. So what a great share. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. In your work,
a few spells up her sleeve, but yeah,
right?
That was a very supernatural experience. Let's put it that way. Anyway, you were saying?
Amazing. Yeah. No worries. Who assists you in your process? Because and I'll just set this up, when in my experience, I can see aspects of when people are in the communication or the channel or however they language it with source, spirit, guides, etc. So I'm curious if you recognize in specifics who you're working with when you're doing your readings.
Well, really, really and truly, it's because it's quite interesting, because of course, as you see in a lot of channels, a lot of people speak about their guides, my guide said, my guides, etc. And I do have them. I've got two. I've been told I've got two. One of them is this guy from like the Victorian era and stuff like that. Part of it is this, because I'm in a way, I'm interested in my guides. At the same time, I'm not, because my main guides, I would say, are the planets, because those are the ones that I talk with the most. But in doing readings for my clients who also happen to be psychic or stuff like that, they will read my guides and they always speak about the same characters. So I'm like, okay.
Well, that just jogged the memory? Didn't that in our conversation happen with you and I?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That was it. Yes. Yeah. You actually picked up. Yes. So you're I think the fourth or fifth person that picked up that there's this Victorian guy who is sort of like one of my guides, and one of my other ones, which I'm not sure if I said on camera. And I did this little exercise. Ironically, I think I was watching Marie's Table or something like that, and she was talking about how to get in touch with your guides. And she said, "Look, all you need to do is lay down and basically ask a sincere question." And straight away, what came through was one of my guides said Saint Gregory. Yeah, can you imagine? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What?" I was like, and I thought, this is a figment of my imagination. I'm just making this up. Saint Gregory, I've never heard of the name before. That must just be a load of BS. Anyway, so I went onto Google and I found out, oh my God, Saint Gregory is a real person, and he was basically one of the first popes from around about the fall of Rome, like 540 AD type stuff. And I also write, I'm a novelist, and I need to sort out my books on Amazon and stuff like that, because there's a bit of a dispute. But one of my characters in there is a cardinal called Cardinal Orsini, and writing him was so easy. And I remember when I first went to Italy, one of the places I went was Florence and stuff like that, and I basically knew my way around. So I think there's been a lot of, well, not even I think, I've been told I've got lots of past lives with the priesthood and stuff like that, ancient Egypt, Greece, and then going on into Catholicism and all of that kind of stuff. So it just kind of made total sense. But yeah, stuff like that. So yeah,
it did. It actually answered a couple, because the follow-up to that one was, and I just love the honesty in your sharing, that it looks the way it does for you, and that can look very, very different than other people, and that's to be celebrated and to really explore even more, because I feel like so many people struggle with the guides and identifying and names and all of these things, and if we outframe from what it, what some people say it needs to look like, or all of these things need to be discovered, I like to look outside the box. And so that, I think, that was one of my follow-up questions. So I think you answered them both in that. So I love it. Who or what inspires Hogarth?
Oh, God, these are great questions. I mean, it's okay. It's a given, even though I've said it, but truly for me, I mean, there are some people that I find inspiring. I would say the things that I really do admire, people of great talent, people who have great gifts, that inspires me. Courage, I find very, very inspiring. But I mean, it may seem obvious to say, but I really do get a lot of inspiration from the planets. I really do. I'm always in dialogue with them, thanking them for whatever and stuff like that, because it gets to, I feel very, even though I've had to work tremendously hard for this knowledge, that when I think about it, I've had to go through many initiations, and I've realized the planets have put me through many initiations, which I now recognize. I'm like, I get it. And there was this time, oh gosh, sharing another big dream, but anyway, years ago, 2018, I was on top of a mountain in Italy because I was going to a friend's music festival. This place is called Mandrea Music Festival. And it was hellish to get there. Absolutely hellish. One of the things that made it hellish was because the day before I'd actually forgotten my bag in a cafe. Yeah, because I was with friends and so whatever, really enjoying the conversation. But the trouble is my bag had, what did it have in it? It had all real important particulars and stuff like that. And anyway, so I couldn't get the stuff back in time. Next day I had to go to the airport. It was going to be a backpacking thing, so I wanted to put my luggage through. They said I hadn't paid enough. It was ridiculous. The queue was biblical. Anyway, everything kept on happening, and I missed my flight. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm going to have to go home. But I was like, I've never missed a flight before. And I was like determined. I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I remembered that Ryanair that I was flying with at the time would still have my details electronically. So I booked a new flight. I was supposed to fly to Verona. I was supposed to fly to Verona. Couldn't get there. Had to fly to Milan instead. Take the coach to Milan, through Verona, and all the way up to this place like Mandrea, where the festival was. I arrive in the middle of the night. There's no buses. I can't get in touch with my friend. And it was really random. And I really realized how much of a mystical experience this was, because there's this guy that came up to me and he said, you are going to have to sleep you're going to have to put up your tent and you're going to have to sleep in this sort of, there was this main road going like this, cars going and everything. And I had to put up my tent there. So I'm like, oh my God. And this other guy who's Indian guy, actually it was two Indian guys. I remember now, it was two Indian guys. And really, I realized, oh my God, this was the beginning of my journey. The other one was called Star. His name was called Star. Now, the Sanskrit name for astrology is Jyotish, and it means the study of light. Yeah. So I have an Indian guy called Star who gives me this advice. Anyway, I put up my tent, whatever. It was really weird. The Italians were shouting out all sorts of strange things. I don't know why they do that, but they like, andiamo, they're just like, honestly, sleep on an intersection in a motorway in Italy and you learn some stuff. I had this guy walking around my tent, muttering things and all kind. I'm like, oh my God, what's this? And I'd said a prayer and I was just like, look, I dare you to come into this. Woke up in the morning, still couldn't get in touch with my friend. The bus drivers weren't interested in getting me up this mountain. So I just said a prayer and I just said, Gods, I need your help right now because I can't get out of this one. Yeah? And it was just like that.
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes later, literally 2 minutes later, someone taps me on the shoulder and they say to me, where do you need to go? Yeah. And it was this woman called Kiara. She just literally said to me, where do you need to go? And I said, thank you. I said, you're my angel. I said, I just called for you.
Wow.
Literally, no word of a lie. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry about my car and blah, blah, blah. I said, don't worry, because there were lots of things in the car. I said, this is a chariot right now. Anyway, she drove me where I needed to go. I got up to the mountain. There were some mystical experiences. Enjoyed the festival. And at the end of the festival, I ended up having this extraordinary vision. And something said, come to the window, and opened up the window, top of a mountain, incredible views. And there in the sky, shining like a ruby, was planet Mars. Yeah. Turns out he was retrograde at the time, very close to the Earth. And I started having this telepathic backwards and forwards. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And so I'm having this dialogue with Mars and all this kind of stuff. I lay down in bed and I get all these visions and all of this different kind of stuff. And that was when one of my first really deeply mystical experiences with the planets. And basically, one of the first things Mars says, he said, you passed the test.
Oh, I love it.
You passed the test. Yeah. And it was
so. Oh, go ahead, carry on.
Oh no, I was going to say, and it just, and it for me that was a big culmination in my life up until that point, where all of a sudden I was given this very mystical, esoteric perspective on all of the travails and struggles and strifes and everything that I'd been through, and my brothers and sisters, and to kind of hear that, have this telepathic backwards and forwards with a planet in the sky. And even at the time it was happening, I was like, this is madness. I would have been burnt at the stake for stuff like this, or put in an asylum. But I understood exactly what it was. And from that point, it's just been a dialogue, ever since. But yeah, it was a very mystical experience at the top of that.
Incredible. I mean, talk about inspiring. And what stands out in that as well is the, when we're in our fear and the upset and the worry, when we surrender that and we hand it over to something that perhaps is greater, and whatever that looks like for people, it can be very different, it can be very similar. And we ask for the assistance, what can occur? It's so beautiful. And none of us are separate from that. None of us are separate from that. And sometimes we just need the reminder from other people's stories to be inspired to that. So I think that's a beautiful share, and I appreciate it that you went there. I love it. So thank you. We'll do some questions. I'm just gonna put that little banner up, and then I want you to talk about we'll do some questions. And if we could ask for all in caps, of course, astrology. If there's questions you have specifically about the astrology, the Vedic astrology, Hogarth is your guy to ask. So personal, and then even some personal, but with the personal, if you could be really specific within the way that you put the question, it really helps us really tune in and go to where we need to go. So there's that. So you mentioned something that stood out, and they kept saying, mention it again, because I think there's some people here that would potentially feel called to your membership, the Chalice Light membership, I think is what you called it.
Oh, right. Yes. So before I answer that, I just want to say something about prayer, just so you know, with the planets and the cosmos and all that stuff. I just want to quickly say, of course, there is God, who I describe for me is the genius of genius behind it all. But here in Earth School, the planets are very much the arbitrators of our reality and all that kind of stuff. They're not the only factor, of course, but they are a big factor. And one of the things, what I think is really worth saying, and I've seen this, observed this as well, not only in my own life, but the life of my clients, is that a pure prayer is heard by the universe and the planets, literally. And and what I mean by pure prayer, it's not like, oh, please let such and such fall down the ditch and break their legs so I can get blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's stuff like that is sort of pretty much dismissed, whatever. I'm talking about prayer, pure prayer that comes from within the soul, in that moment of need. This is often why when people are in their darkest hour and they surrender everything and they make those kind of prayers, they are heard instantly. And the planet that is looking after you that time, or you are under its jurisdiction or influence, it will step in to, even if it's a malefic planet, a cruel planet, or a sweet one, it doesn't matter. So in terms of that person turning up when I just put that prayer, because I was like, I was just like, gods, I need your help. I really can't do it. And it was like, bang, just like that. And the question was, sorry,
no, thank you for adding that. I love that about you. And people are really resonating. That's the thing. I just want to point out, thank you so much, Catherine, for your donation. That is so kind. I appreciate it. And everybody that's joined, and just the feedback, and I've highlighted a few of them, but when we go to that personal place, there's learning and there's inspiration. There's so much more there, and it takes something sometimes. And I understand the privacy in our lives, and we all have different kind of ideas around that. But when we do go there, there's just so much. There's just so much in that connection. So I appreciate it that you went there, because people are really resonating with what your stories are. So I appreciate that. And the question was your membership.
That was it. Sorry, see.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah,
I like talking about things and other things. So
I love it.
So if you go onto my channel, yes, there's membership there. I've got, what is it? One of them is called Secrets, Fame, and Infamy, or Secrets, Fame, and Infamy, and that's where I do like videos which are like deep dives on people's charts. So who have I got coming up? I have been a bit busy of late, so I'm going to be doing Jared Kushner. Yeah, so watch out for that ones, guys. I might try and do that tomorrow if I've got time. So I look at some of the people that may be a bit nasty, whatever, but I also look at really sweet, lovely people as well. I've done like Dolly Parton, Michelle Obama, and stuff like that. Then the next tier is my Vedic apprentice, Vedic apprentice, and that's where I actually teach about the astrology. So I've just finished a series that was about the Mahadasha sequence, which is when a planet is in control of your life, etc. But I've done everything, what the sun means, moon, etc., blah, blah, blah. Now moving on to yogas. And then I've got the Chalice of Light membership, and that's where if you subscribe to that one, which is the top tier one, people are in with a chance to get a free reading. I just did a whole bunch actually recently, and I'll probably do a few more. But also as well, where I might share extra special videos and stuff like that. And I'm still developing that one a bit. So there you are. Thanks for asking.
Of course. Yeah. And if you haven't already subscribed to his channel, it's also in the description, HOGARTH'S Global Astrology. Check it out. We got some amazing questions, you guys. And of course, as you know how it goes, we won't get to all of them. So we'll close the questions for now. And I always ask people to just really, and everyone does this so beautifully, that when we don't get the questions asked ourselves, that we provide the other people the space to have their question, because in it, there's always something there potentially for us. So I just always love to remind people that. And oh my God, we got some juicy questions. I love it.
And you got some, thank you, Spirit Watcher, as well for your donations. You got some.
Thank you so much for that. Very kind of you. And Chris Wickens wants to know, did we meet in another life? I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, I think we all have. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a...
I think especially with this community as well. And one of the things I can say in terms of with my clients, almost certainly, so many of my clients have planets with my planets, and they've literally been about 5 or 6 at least, where I'm just like, oh my God, we met in a past life, and I've coming back again in this life to give them more advice. See, it's amazing. It's honestly
so layered. It really is. Joni S asks, do you have to know the exact birth time in the Vedic astrology to work? Mine is not recorded, but I used a pendulum to determine. I'm sure lots of people have that. I've seen it before where people are unsure. So
it's a very good question. What I would say with Vedic astrology, it is very precise. So if you can get to within like 10 minutes is ideal. However, there are a lot of my clients that don't know the birth, like they can't even get close. So what I do is I would then choose midnight of that day of when they were born. And then what you can look at very closely is the moon, because the moon is so powerful. And particularly this power is recognized in Vedic astrology. You can actually use it as an alternative ascendant. It's called Chandra Lagna. The Sanskrit name for moon in Vedic astrology is Chandra. So it's called Chandra Lagna, and it's when you make the moon the ascendant. and stuff like that. But ideally, for absolute accuracy, it is if there is a close, because the ascendant, the rising sign lasts for 2 hours. So even if it's in a 2-hour window where you may not be sure in that 2 hours, it can still be very accurate, because then all of the houses would be in the correct position. But even then, as long as you can get the day right, then the planets and what signs they're in, I can still read a chart from that. But if the moon is changing house, if the moon is on the cusp, then it is a little bit more tricky, because the moon moves very quickly. She can actually, the moon only spends 2.5 days in each sign. But nonetheless, it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you do know, then I really can give a very, very accurate reading. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, some other people were asking. So there's, thank you for clarifying that. And thank you for everybody else who's joined. Appreciate that you are choosing to spend your time here. Hogarth is pretty fascinating. So I would be watching. I would be watching. And Spirit Watcher Suzanne and Chris Wickens, thank you so much for your donation. We appreciate it. Okay, where are we going here? Let's do this one. Oh, Martha, I gave you your wrench. I gave it to you. Hopefully it worked. This is a question that I think this is an interesting one. Because you're in the UK, are you not?
Yes, I am. Yeah, here I am in the UK.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gary G wants to know, Hogarth and Kevin, when Prince Charles becomes king, how long will he reign? I'm just gonna go with it. I actually don't see. I've read on this once or twice before, and the feeling that I get is that they show me there's it's almost like there's some sort of like ceremony to acknowledge, but that he doesn't actually become, or it's like I don't know if it's not becoming the king, but it's very, very brief. It just doesn't feel like it's, it just doesn't feel like it's going to happen. That's what they're showing me. I'm curious, Hogarth, what you get.
Now it's quite interesting. I'm trying to think if have I done Charles's chart yet? Not yet, but I may create a royal playlist, because I mean I've done Harry and Meghan in the past. I think Princess Margaret, Prince Philip. Haven't done the Queen yet. I might wait until she leaves this mortal earth. But one thing that is interesting about Charles is that I think in Western astrology he is a Scorpio. Yeah. But in Vedic astrology, remember, you take off almost 24 degrees and it comes back. I think his sun sign is Libra in Vedic astrology, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on this, guys, because I'm doing this off the top of my head, because I've not actually done a version of his chart. But I think it is in Libra. Now, what is the sun, which represents the king? Yeah, the king or the queen, but it's really moon is queen, sun is king. Yeah. And it's just an archetypal energy. The sun is considered debilitated in the sign of Libra. Yeah. Because if you think of the symbol, it goes like this, doesn't it? Let's see if I can find my Libra. There we are. So if we look here, that's the symbol for Libra. And it means 3 things. It means 3 things. It means the scales of the marketplace, trade, business, commerce, contract, stuff like that. It also means the scale of justice, yeah, lawyers and all those kind of things. I was just looking at Kamala Harris's chart. She's got 4 planets in Libra. She's a lawyer, justice, yeah. But the third meaning, which is very much overlooked, is that this is also the setting sun. If you see, it's the sunset. So if you want to be the king of a nation, to have the sun setting in your chart is not a great omen, is it? It means at the very least it's going to be delayed, because the sun is not rising. Yeah, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So this is part of that delay that Charles has faced. Yeah, his mother, of course, is extraordinarily long-lived. We know she's been having some health issues, but you know, The Queen Mother died when she was 101. I'm not sure if the Queen will make it that far. So by that time, by the time he is king, he's going to be very mature himself. He may not have the energy for it. So we will have to see. But in terms of his chart, it doesn't look like he would wear the crown for long. I think I could say that much.
Interesting. And I just pulled a few cards. I heard pull 3 cards. So I got, what's interesting, the Dust Devil, which is about moving all of that stagnation. It's like, yeah, and that. So I feel like there's this awareness. There's the Feast of Plenty, which is about the choices and the consequences, and the 2 swords in there. So I think there's this real focus and attention on, if he does become queen, that was interesting. If he does become king, what the consequences of that is, and the choice around it if they skip and make his son the king. And then the 7 deadly sins, which is really interesting. Yeah. And it's just all about the humanity's destructive traits. So I think there's this cosmic awareness in the this kind of divine matrix that's really playing into it. So yeah, it's curious.
Boy, it's funny because you've inspired me, and I've just pulled 3 cards. Here we are, turning into an impromptu tarot session, everyone. So if we look here, in regards to Prince Charles, I think this is how he's felt. Yeah, he's felt like what? The pauper. Yeah, living on mummy's handouts. Yeah. Because here, this is the benevolent person who's wealthy and rich, etc. And then you've got the people receiving down here. So, of course, he's been what? He's been the heir to the throne for ages, decades. But this also shows as well, when he's king, he will want to be generous in that role. He will get there eventually. Here we are. We got the wish fulfillment card, the smug merchant. Yeah, the nine of cups. And that was the 6 of Pentacles, by the way, the 9 of Cups. So he will get his wish in the end. And I think it's going to be a collaborative reign. So he's going to seek to combine his efforts with others. And I think particularly in regards to the environment as well, which is something he's always felt passionate about. But will it be a long reign? Well, it's unlikely, is it? Because he's had to wait so long. So, yeah, there's my little spin.
Curious. Great question, Gary. Thank you. I'm not familiar with this at all. What does it mean to have Lilith in one's chart in astrology? Have you looked into human design?
Okay. So Lilith, or Black Moon Lilith, which is what that person will be referring to, I don't use as part of my consultations, but I understand that Lilith is a bit like a special aspect of the moon. And Lilith is that character. She was said to be the first Eve. She wasn't Eve. She was like the primordial woman. And Lilith can represent that aspect of the feminine in particular that can be seductive or Machiavellian. Or Lilith is not trusted. Lilith is often blamed and used. Often as a tool to actually sometimes denigrate women, actually, because she's known as the seductress, the one that comes and tempts men. And she's almost like a femme fatale kind of character. Yeah. However, what I would argue is that Lilith needs to be reclaimed. Women need to reclaim Lilith as part of their personal empowerment, so to speak, and for some of more of those negative connotations to be moved. For me, in my consultations, it's not useful because it's not something where it's telling me something concrete about that person's life in terms of who's showing up and where. That's why I use Ceres and I use Chiron. The Wounded Healer. Ceres is all about motherhood or children and loving something, and the outer planets and of course the inner planets. But yeah, that's essentially what human Lilith is about. Everyone's got Lilith somewhere, but I don't rank her that highly in terms of importance when it comes to reading a chart. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And another one, and I know I've heard this question before, and there's a lot of conversation around retrograde. And so what influence that would have when someone's born during Mercury retrograde?
Oh yeah, I'll mention that. And someone's just said it. Nancy Samp said Lilith was eliminated because she refused to play a submissive role to Adam. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. So they took one of his own ribs or whatever, and then made Eve. And they talk about the dichotomy between the pious, sweet Eve, and then Lilith, who is more headstrong and rebellious, and she lives her own life because Adam complained that Lilith was too headstrong for him. Anyway, so retrograde. So how does that affect retrograde planets? When planets are retrograde, they're considered stronger in Vedic astrology because they're technically closer to the Earth. Mercury goes retrograde about 3 times a year. They say when a person who's got Mercury retrograde in their chart, when they're born with it, the Mercury retrogrades are actually a better time for them than for everyone else. Because for everyone else, it's like, oh, the energy of Mercury is moving backwards, travel disruption, and it literally can be travel disruption, things going wrong with computers. I've had some terrible ones. But they say when you're born with Mercury retrograde is actually quite good for you when Mercury goes retrograde. So I hope that answers your question there. So it can be an advantage.
Sometimes I feel like it is Mercury retrograde when it's not. What's that layer to it? Where I'm like, what? Like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, and everyone, and it wasn't, but there was this feeling or this recognition for things. So I'm wondering, does that
Now, it's quite interesting that you should mention that because at the moment, I think there are about 4 planets that are currently retrograde. So for example, it's when Mercury's retrograde, that's the more obvious feeling that we have. And it does deal a lot with, people forgetting appointments, which is a classic one, or getting the time wrong, or missing meetings, emails, that stuff. That's more the Mercury retrograde. But at the moment, we've got Neptune retrograde, Jupiter is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, so is Pluto, Uranus is going to go retrograde soon as well. And then Mars is going to go retrograde at some point in November or something like that. So we're going to be having that retrograde energy is very strong right now. So you're probably just picking up on a lot of that. So there you are.
There you go. And Pebbles says, I love Hogarth's energy. I think we all do. There you go. And thank you so much, Diana. So kind of you. I appreciate it. And where are we here? I hope you'll come back because I'd love to, the first time I like just being in the conversation, and it's always so wonderful to get to know people a little bit more. Are you okay for about 15 more minutes, or I just want to check in with your time?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. There's a few more questions.
An hour has gone already. Wow.
I know. So what we'll do, if you'll come back, I'd love to just go into full readings with you because I think it would be a wonderful, So where are we? I saw a couple, bear with me. That one I've done. Oh yeah. And I saw this one. I just wanted to, So Italiana, we he talked about that. So just, if you can, it's great, but if you don't, it's not going to, you can still have your chart read. So, the explanation was, you
still have the chart read, and we would focus more on the moon and stuff like that, and you can still get a very good general reading that way. But when the closer you know to your time, then we can see which houses the planets are in, because it's the ascendant that decides it. And that will literally show explicitly the areas of life. But there's still an awful lot that I can read from a chart. I can still read the nature and characteristics of a person's mother, their father, brothers, sisters, all that stuff which is relevant. And I'll probably just have to ask more questions to establish what I'm getting from the chart. But I always tune in with my client, their chart, and I tune in upstairs as well. And it all just comes out anyway. So, yeah.
Noberto Lara asks, how do I know if I'm on the right path? And it's, I'll just share my experience with just getting, I want to say Vedic, but a Vedic reading with Hogarth. Yeah, Vedic. Thank you. That those are kind of the tools or things that are at, at our disposal, if you will, around Because here's the thing, I think we always know, and sometimes in life with all the choices and what's going on and all of the things, we can feel sometimes like we're not on the right path. But I truly know that we are always on the right path, regardless of what that looks like. And yes, sometimes it's difficult, and yes, sometimes it's wonderful. And on either side of those, or somewhere in between, it's always temporary. So I always feel like, you know, one of the purposes that go for all of us in this carnation is that we're here to have experiences. And so that path might look different to our preference, but I think some of the helpful things like the astrology, like the readings, like the those types of offerings can be the validation or the reassurance that we are. So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, in Vedic astrology, which is unique to Vedic astrology, we have things called divisional charts. And that's a way of looking at a person's chart. But it's almost, I want people to imagine, it's like having a microscope or binoculars of varying degrees of magnification. So the D1 is where the planets were at the time that you were born. And then they go up there, and there's even such a thing as a D60. Now, it doesn't go all the way through 1 to 60. It skips a few, but there's a D10, which is about the career. There's a D12, you know, which is about the parents and grandparents, you know, all of this kind of stuff. The most important one is the D9, the Navamsha chart, which is often referred to as well as the chart of marriage. But it's not just marriage, it means Dharma, yeah? Your D1 is like the tree. The D9 is like the fruit of the tree. What fruits the life will bear. Yeah. And they're like two halves of the same coin. I always use this coin with my clients to describe that energy. Now, what happens is from around 35, 36, the energy of a person's life starts to change. But once they hit 40, their Navamsha chart, the full energy of their Navamsha chart kicks in. It's always there in the background, even when we're kids. But when we're 40, it really kicks in. And those existential questions about your purpose in life, what you're supposed to do, is always in the D9. It's one of the most common questions that I get. But in many ways, for me, it's almost one of the easiest to answer. We just read the D9. And then you can see what is there. And it's remarkable. Some people have beautiful reasons why they're here on Earth. Some people are here to learn, travel, collect beautiful things, or, you know, it's really interesting. Or, you know, family, whatever. So yes, it will be in your D9. And when we look at that, that can help you establish what you're here for.
Awesome. By the way, that coin looks like a Canadian $1 loonie.
Does
That's
it?
what they call it. Yeah, it really does.
There you are.
Yeah.
We all need a bit of chocolate money, don't we? This is literally a bit, you know.
Oh, a chocolate coin. Money. There you go.
My real gold coins I keep behind me. Anyway.
Totally. In the safe. Totally. Kristen Louise asks, I've done my chart and my personality mostly does not match the descriptions. What would you tell someone in my situation?
I'm curious. Say, let's say Vedic consultation.
That's what I was going to say. Which version did you have? Because there's beautiful things about both of them. And again, I know I shared my experience, but it was very different for me. So the Vedic was my preference. And along with that, having it, you know, just having an astrology chart read to you, with the resonance of someone reading that and all of the explanation is very different than just having your chart done and all of these pages of information coming at you. It's two very different. It was very different in my experience. So I'd be curious, Kristen, what you had as far as the type.
It doesn't compare. And be it Vedic astrologer or Western astrologer, if the astrologer is talented and they are good at what they do, whatever methodology they use, if they're tuning in with you and tuning in upstairs, then they will be able to give you a good reading. So sometimes when we get those generic ones, they are just, it's like a tick box exercise. They already have pre-thingamajigs there in place, and it goes bang, bang, bang. You're like this, you're like that. But of course, if it's what we need to understand as well with Western tropical astrology, unfortunately, the slower the planet moves, the more inaccurate it becomes, because it takes that planet longer to travel those 24 degrees to catch up. So to put it in perspective, Saturn, for example, takes 2.5 years to go through a sign. Takes them a long time, like over 2 years to move 24 degrees. So imagine with Uranus, which takes 84 years to go around the sun. And then Neptune is what, I think 165 or something like that. Pluto takes 248 years to go around. So that Pluto is going to be in a complete... Anyway, you get my meaning.
Yeah. There was a question here that kind of, and it was one of my questions actually earlier, so I'm glad that it came up again, was the connection between healing and Vedic astrology for people. Just curious if you could speak to the aspect of healing, you know, in say someone having a reading, and of course this is for entertainment purposes only, but I'm just curious if you have any experiences or shares from clients that have had that as a focus of why they would reach out to you.
Yes, definitely. What I found, and this is really what I enjoy most, really, because when I look at my chart, I can see why I'm here on Earth, and I'm supposed to be an astrologer and stuff like that. But what I enjoy most is that aspect of healing. I've literally, when I'm able to describe to people in accurate detail why things, not only just why things have happened in their life as they have, and when I can accurately describe their mother and their father and their siblings, and we can just talk about certain things, that in of itself is often very healing for the clients, because it takes it. Often there can be a lot of things that happen in people's lives where they feel a lot of guilt or a lot of shame or a lot of embarrassment, or they feel they can't talk about things, or there's lots of things to do maybe with trauma and stuff like that. And then they come and have a reading with me, and I'm like, oh, look, I see there was a trauma here with blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Or again, without saying names, but a client of mine, we were looking at their chart. I'm not even going to say if they're male or female. I was looking at their chart, and I could see there was a mystery in their chart in regards to their parent, who their parent was. And the sun was in a certain place, yeah? And it was in a certain combination with certain planets. And I was like, there's a mystery here. And we had to talk about the client's father. And I said, blah, 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 there's something here where you weren't really quite with with the father, or there's some kind of separation, some kind of mystery and stuff like that. And it turns out my client's father was someone else. And you could actually even see, and it actually correlated that you could actually see that the father was foreign and was from an island, yeah, or a set of islands. I won't say which part of the world, but when I was explaining this with the client, it was like, OMG, even for the both of us. So yeah, so that can be very healing and cathartic for people. So just being read accurately, when someone authentically, where they're channeling the planets and they're in touch with you and they're giving you that honest, open reading, that in of itself can be a healing in of itself.
I love that. Yeah, Spirit was prompting as you went into the healing. And you said it. They said, look at the live, and it was 111, and that happened earlier when you were talking about your inspiration. There was 222 in the chat. So the alignments of those are just things that we can sometimes just miss, and I love it. And so I just wanted to acknowledge, because that was one of the questions that I had written down, and I just didn't see it. And so Martha had made mention in the chat that Susan, I think, was the one that asked that question. So I love it how there's no coincidence in that, and we're also supported, and every single one of us are meant to be here in this very moment for things sometimes we're not even aware we need to be aware of. So I love that. I think it's a wonderful place to end. And I wanted to also put this, that Linda Bishop said, I know so many of you in this community from other lifetimes. So good to see you all again, truly. And that's just it. You know, I think we've all had lifetimes where we've maybe not intimately known each other, or maybe we just, you know, there's a familiarity, but for sure, without a doubt, in the thousands of lives I feel and know that we have had these connections. So yeah, it's great to see you all again. And Hogarth, if there's anything I would love, I would love to see more of you. I hope you all come back.
Absolutely. And that was brilliant. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Put you in the hot seat.
I must say, you managed to squeak out some really stories that I don't normally share. And now, of course, it's shared with the whole world. But you know, whatever. Yeah. And
I love it.
You're real natural, and congratulations again as well on your reaching 4,000. I'm sure you'll go to much more than that, and you're really providing a service as well by having these discussions and being very generous with your questions and asking really interesting questions, and then allowing people to ask as well. And I think it does a lot for the viewers and everything like that, as well as the person that you're interviewing. So thanks for that. Pleasure being here. And of course, I'd love to be back. And I am actually having you on my channel, aren't I?
I am. Yes. I was going to say, what do we've got going on? You do your show, I wanted to mention. Is it every Saturday?
Yes. I have my Saturday show, but I'm going to start Wednesdays. Is for like when I'm going to be doing live readings. So actually this Wednesday coming, Linda G is going to be live on my show. I'm going to read her chart live, just like I read yours. So that's going to be an interesting one. And then I think you're going to be on my channel again on Wednesday, the 7th of September. So my Wednesdays are going to be like those interview days and, you know, all of this kind of stuff going forward, but always the Saturdays as well.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. And thank you, everyone that came. Thank you for those that made a donation. That is so appreciative. And yes, we will call it a day, and bless you all. And thank you. Don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't to either of our channels, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And the contest information, I did take a peek and I didn't put one of the addresses in. I'm going to update that with the correct email address for the contest and the workshop, and we will see you all again.
Brilliant.
Oh, there was one question that caught my eye. Do you do your readings through Zoom?
Yes, I do. So I do my readings through Zoom. So if you go on my website, thearchetypalblueprint.com, like Kevin said, he's probably put the details down there. So when you actually click on the date that's available in my diary, it's all automated once you pay for it, and then you will automatically get that Zoom link. It goes into my diary, and then I will send you the Zoom link again the day before, and you also get the recording plus the scan of your chart as well as part of the consultation. So yes, it is by Zoom, and in fact that's turned out to be the best. It's amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, we'll say goodbye for now. And Hogarth, I'll chat with you just for a second backstage. Sure. And your groceries. I'm concerned about your food.
I'm like, I've got the app open. I'm like, what the hell happened to my groceries? I'm just like, well, I paid for that. So yeah, we'll check that in a minute.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.